Hello and welcome back to On Track GP, where we are talking about the qualifying session where we don't have a Red Bull on the front row. It's the first time in, I think, 6 races that Max Verstappen is not going to be leading the way, and Lewis Hamilton is on pole. I mean, it was a great session overall, Sam. What are your sort of general thoughts before we get into the more specifics of it?
It was one of the more exciting qualifyings we've had all year, really. Like, I think the fact that Verstappen, I mean, if anyone didn't see it, the way it worked out was Verstappen set his lap and it was quite clear he hadn't improved. So it suddenly opened the door for the likes of Piastri, Norris, and then obviously Hamilton to sort of set their own quick time. But yeah, it was dramatic throughout. Like, we had quite famous drivers coming out of Q1, a Ferrari out in Q2, and then all of that was sort of overshadowed by Hamilton. And I have a little stat for you: 598 days since his last pole position. 2021.
598 days. Mercedes fans have been starving for something.
Exactly. 2021, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was the last time he did it. So,
oh my, that's
a big old wait.
Well, look, you've said there, we've had famous drivers go out, and it's kind of been quite a mixed up grid, which we have seen a fair amount this season. But the main change for this qualifying session is that we saw the tyre changes. So starting on hards in Q1, into the mediums in Q2, and then on the softs in Q3. I quite like this. But before we came on to do this, you did make a good point that actually, ultimately, everyone's on the same thing. So how much does it change? But we saw maybe if anything, it kind of mixes up the strategy a little bit, and also a sense of maybe guys panicking, i.e. leaving it too late to set a time. And that's what happened to dear old George Russell, who starts 18th tomorrow. Yikes, George.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really George's fault. It was definitely Mercedes' fault. Like, they had a situation where there was just a huge amount of traffic in sector 3, and he hadn't got that banker lap in. So by the time he got stuck there, like, his lap was ruined and he got sent out. And like, I think that's probably the biggest difference of having the hard tires in Q1 is they take a lot longer to warm up. So maybe his tires weren't quite where he wanted them to be. And if you hit traffic, then that's just going to kill you off even more. So like, that was just purely Mercedes' fault. Really. I don't think Russell was lacking anything. Like we saw from his teammate, like that Mercedes car definitely had pace this weekend. But yeah, he's going to have a hard time tomorrow trying to make up for lost ground, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of pace. They're literally starting on pole in that car, so it's crazy. We also lost Logan Sargent, Kevin Magnussen, George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, and Alex Albon. Alex Albon, a bit of a surprise. Williams having a little bit of a resurgence, but maybe just not their track.
Yeah, I think they tend to be a track that's more suited to long straights, and the Hungarian doesn't really have a load of those. They have a few long, like high-speed corners, but mainly quite a lot of low-speed corners, which just doesn't really suit the Williams car. So Albon in particular looked particularly disappointed by him leaving in Q1, but that's probably a good sign that the Williams have been quite good this season, that Albon rightly feels aggrieved to be leaving at the earliest opportunity, really.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to Q2, the sort of one of the main headlines here is that the man that everyone's been talking about since his return to Formula One 2 weeks ago out-qualifies his teammate. Daniel Ricciardo will be starting 13th tomorrow, 4 places ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, both in the Alfa Tauri. Were you surprised by that? I've read quite a lot about the. Everyone was really expecting Yuki to kind of, because he's been in the car for so much longer, years really. That we were going to see him, basically not struggle with Daniel's coming into the team. But Daniel's come in and made a bit of a statement early on. Look, he's not in the points starting tomorrow, but he is starting 4 places ahead. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's definitely a surprise. I think if you'd have told me before the session that both AlphaTauris would have gone out in Q1, I probably would have believed you. Like, their car's just not great. So obviously it's going to be a huge boost of confidence for Daniel that he's managed to get out of Q1. Yes, he's beaten his teammate. Like, that's even better. But I think the fact that he's managed to show he's one of the quickest 15 drivers on the grid, like, that's a massive boost for him. Like, how much he can do in the race tomorrow, we'll see. Like, it is quite a circuit that's hard to overtake, but as we know, like, Ricciardo's known for his late braking and being a bit more adventurous, so maybe that will come to his benefit. But yeah, for now at least, like, everything's going well for Ricciardo. He had a good day yesterday, like, just getting used to the car again. The fact that he's in the first meaningful session of his F1 return, like, he's done something well. Like, I think that's just a good sign for him, really. And like, yeah, I think that battle will be interesting as we go into the actual race tomorrow to see who ends up faster than the other one.
Sticking with Q2, bit sad that I'm wearing the hat, to be honest. But we also lose Carlos Sainz, who starts 11th tomorrow, who got essentially knocked out by his teammate in Q2. I struggling again, slightly sad. It's just a really horrible season for Ferrari. It really is bleak.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think we've seen a lot of other teams have like their moment in the sun, really. Like Aston Martin started very strongly,
Yes.
Mercedes then came into it around Spain, and now it's sort of McLaren's turn. Whereas Ferrari have just never really had that moment, have they? Has there ever been a streak where they think, okay, Ferrari is the second quickest car behind Red Bull? Like, no, that hasn't happened. And now they're in a situation where they've got at least 10 other drivers that have got quick cars ahead of them. Like, they could easily beat them. So in the past, maybe Ferrari could sneak into Q3 without that much effort, like they had a quick enough car. But now, with McLaren's being so well, with the Alfas being a surprise this race as well, like it takes a lot to get into Q3. And like the fact that Sainz was knocked out by his teammate just showed that one of them wasn't going to have the speed today. It turned out to be Sainz. So yeah, another poor weekend for Ferrari. It looks like. I mean, they're quite a long way off the front row, even with Leclerc into Q3. So yeah, I mean, what do you expect for them? Double points? Would that be a good weekend for them? We'll see tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, as you say, the points inevitably come on the Sunday, and all it takes is one little moment of not pitting while everybody else does, and then a safety car happening, and you have a massive advantage there. But as it stands, very, very disappointing for me as a Ferrari fan. We also lost Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, and Carlos Sainz in that order. Moving on now to. I feel like there's quite a big highlight here in Q3, which is almost gone under the radar because of what Hamilton's done. Alfa Romeo, sorry, what?
Exactly, yeah, like that is completely out of the blue. I think we were sort of discussing earlier, like, oh, maybe they had a lot of upgrades, and we looked. There's been no upgrades. There's been no difference between this car in Silverstone and this car in Hungary. And I think this is just again shows that this season, like, cars are so dependent on the circuit. Like, it's mad, like to the degree, like we saw it with McLaren. Like, they've been quick in Austria and Silverstone. I know they've been quick here, but like they were really quick in the last two circuits because that just suited their car. And like the Alpha car hasn't looked quick anywhere really. But then we come to this circuit, it's got much more low speed corners than the last two had, and they look quick for some reason. Like there was a significant portion of the time when Joe Guanyu was top of the timesheets, and you're like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening? Like, they've just got the pace in this weekend. So yeah, like, I think they both fully deserve that P10 stuff, wherever they are in P10 to start tomorrow. So again, the question now is like, how much can they hold on to that spot? But I mean, it's a good question to have rather than how can we overtake when we're P19 and P20, as we've seen them quite a lot so far this season.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's not even like they're starting 10th and 9th. They're starting Valtteri in 7th and Zhou Guanyu in 5th. It's his best qualifying result in F1. And you just got to say, fair play. We'd love to see that in F1 when a team that's sort of just been kind of there, just existing for the majority of this season, really, just kind of flying under the radar. And there you go, they pull out an absolute worldie. And as you said before, it's a very difficult track to overtake on. And if they can get their elbows out in the Alphas, they could double point it tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely the fact that they're so close to each other. I'm not sure who's P6 off the top of my head, but the fact that they're reasonably within close proximity, like they could definitely work together. Like, it's hard enough to overtake one car, but if they've got two cars working together as a team to get maximum points, then yeah, that's looking great for them so far. Like, obviously anything can happen tomorrow. There could be a huge crash. Both drivers could crash into each other. We don't know. But for now, it's looking more positive than it has done in a long time for Alfa Romeo.
Well, I'll run you through that order. So Nico Hulkenberg in 10th, and we'll stop on the next man. Sergio Perez in 9th. Where again?
You say that though. You say that. At least he made it into Q3. Like, that's the small bonus that horrendous run that he was on, where he was just out in Q2 or even Q1 on occasions. It's finally over. I think they said on the broadcast that if he did it one more time, that was his longest streak of his career. Like, he's already beaten the Red Bull record. Like, if he did it once more, that would have been the longest streak out of Q3. So yes, it's P9. Yes, his teammates on the front row. Doesn't look good, but in comparison to the last few weeks, like, at least Christian Horner isn't going to field questions of why was Sergio so bad today. Like, he's made it. Like, not great, but at least that box has finally been ticked, and hopefully that gets in his head in a good way, because I think he is a driver that is quite susceptible to maybe like mental problems, like being in his own head a bit more than the other drivers. So yeah, maybe this will just give him that little boost, maybe not this weekend. Like I said, it's quite a hard track to overtake, but we've got Spa next weekend, so maybe he'd be a bit better there, really.
Yeah, you imagine the Red Bull is going to fly around Spa. But as you say, somewhere here, it could be tricky. Even that rocket ship Red Bull is going to struggle to overtake because there's just not so many opportunities to. So Sergio Perez starts in ninth, Fernando Alonso in eighth. Then we've got Valtteri Bottas. Charles Leclerc is splitting the two Alfa Romeos in sixth. So as you say, if they can do a little bit of tag team work, those Alfa Romeos, that could be interesting.
That's Ferrari against two Ferrari-powered teams. Like, ooh, could be a bit tense at times there.
Yeah, literally, they've gone. We'll have that engine. Thanks very much. It's a Ferrari.
Yeah, they'll be trying to get in the Alpha garage stand, just like turn down the engine a bit. Like, oh, sorry, Joe, your car's a bit slower today. Whoops.
Moving into the top four, another phenomenal session for McLaren. And I'm really relieved for them and happy for them. Oscar Piastri in fourth, Lando Norris in third, and he came out after qualifying and was saying that actually he was unhappy with finishing third. That's how their expectations have changed over the last couple of weeks. What do you make of what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's another surprise. Really, I think we weren't expecting this McLaren to be that good. Like this race, like they've been really good the last two races, but like I mentioned before, that's been very circuit dependent. And this seemed like one. I think even Zach Brown commented on it. He wasn't sure how well their upgrades would perform at this track, but the fact that Norris is annoyed that he didn't get a pole position, like, really shows that they're in it. And like, it's not just Norris. Like Piastri is doing amazingly well as well, like to get into the second row, like that's just a great result for them. And like we said with Alpha, like the fact that they're working together, they're literally starting next to each other, like they can work together. I mean, how much that will come into play or whether they want to race each other, we'll see. But like, yeah, just another great day for McLaren, really, and like lots to build on for tomorrow.
I'll absolutely be looking at a podium. In front of them, though, they do have the man that can't stop winning, Max Verstappen in second, and Lewis Hamilton on pole position. Now, the interesting thing is about the Hungarian is the first turn is a right-hander. And if you start in first, you start on the racing line on the left. So in theory, you're on the outside. But the track, the quality of the track, if I'm not mistaken, is so much better that you want to start on the left, not on the right, because then you're on that dirty sided track. And quite possibly Lando Norris on the better side of the track, starting on the left in third, could go and do Max Verstappen, and then he's suddenly down in third. So it could be a really, it's really degraded that side of the track. So I think that could be quite an interesting first couple of corners.
Yeah, that first corner was going to be great. Like, when was the last time we had Hamilton and Verstappen lining up side by side? I mean, it may have happened. I can't really remember a recent time it's happened, but we haven't had that for ages. And like, it's going to be hugely exciting. Like you said, like, you've got Hamilton and Norris behind her, both on the better side of the track, but then that Red Bull's very quick. So, like, can Max beat them on the reaction time? Can he accelerate quicker? And can we have a situation where they're sort of going into that first corner, neither one wants to give up their racing line or their advantage, and like, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. It's exciting. Like, I'm looking forward to actually seeing that start. And like we saw last week that Max was sometimes susceptible to coming off the start, because obviously Norris overtook him going into the first corner at Silverstone. Can Hamilton do the similar, or like can he keep it in the head? But yeah, it's going to be a great start. Like, I think we all sort of predict that the Red Bull's going to win eventually, but if they can hold him back for that start, then who knows what could happen, really.
Well, that's my question to you. Is this one of the opportunities that we've been waiting for this season, where we go, this is the race where Red Bull might not win it? This is an opportunity for them to not go 22-0 for race wins as a constructor. Is there an opportunity for Lewis Hamilton to actually win this race, do you think?
I think if Max was a bit further down than P2, I might be more inclined to agree with you. But I think the fact that he's only on P2, like he's only got one car to overtake, I still think that Red Bull's very quick. I mean, Verstappen doesn't seem overly thrilled with it. They've had a lot of upgrades this weekend, and like he thinks they're good, but they seem to not be able to get it together, really. Like, he didn't have a great qualifying, obviously, because he didn't finish on pole. But I think, so yeah, maybe they'll do little tweaks. Obviously, you can't do a load amount with under part Ferme, but just a few more here and there. Like, maybe he can sort of suss out how this car works now. But yeah, I still think Red Bull will win. I mean, it's the boring answer, but like, I think you need Max at least like P6 at the moment, the form he's in. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it's Hamilton. Like, he could easily defend him if he gets his elbows out, as we've seen with those two over the past few years.
Yeah, and he won't give it up, Lewis. That's the other thing. And, assuming that Max doesn't completely drive off into distance and kill that DRS in the first 5 laps and does Lewis in the first corner, I think we could see a really interesting fight. I'm going to ask for a couple of predictions. For me, I'm going to go Max and then Lewis second, and Lando in third. What about yours? What are your top three?
I feel like I want to agree exactly with that, but
Okay.
that's boring, isn't it? So let's go Piastri. I'm going to swap Norris out for Piastri. Piastri deserves a podium. Like, he deserved one in Silverstone. He got done by that safety car, the timing of it. So I'm going to say Piastri. I think, and he's shown that he's quick. Like, he can overtake Norris if he wants to. So yeah, for the sake of being interesting, I'm not going to say what originally I thought and just tweak the last driver, put Norris and Piastri in there instead of Norris.
Yeah, they say never change your mind. That's like the first rule of mind control. So I've got in your head clearly.
Yeah, you have. I've said.
Sam from Planet F1, thank you so much for joining us for this sort of breakdown of the qualifying session. And I really am trying not to get overly carried away now that we finally have a car that isn't a Red Bull on pole position tomorrow. It's Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be huge. Of course, we're going to be going live for the race on Track GP, so come and join us for some fun. But for now, we will see you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, let's have a good race tomorrow. Thanks for watching. See you soon.